program, participants are expected to gain comprehensive knowledge of the Six Sigma methodology through a practical, result-oriented approach. And all of you should be able to use Six Sigma tools and techniques effectively for problem solving and decision making, particularly when you are doing any project, improvement project. Gain enough knowledge to successfully attempt and pass the requirements for CLSSGB certification exam. And once you become a green belt, you will be able to work with black belts and participate in Lean Six Sigma project. And not only that, you will also be able to lead green belt projects. Right. And there are certain expectations. You need to have basic computer literacy, because as part of the training program, you will also be trained on Excel and the Minitab, right? Minitab software. So we'll be providing you the Minitab license, a trial version license, and then you will be using it to do a lot of statistical analysis and then statistical reports. And the basic statistical knowledge is preferred. Basic statistical knowledge is preferred, of course. It is not mandatory. And then some exposure projects. I'm sure all of you could have done some project already in your undergraduation. So that will really help now, and commit and learn the concepts, tools, and produce results, right? These are the expectations. So the first module, we will understand the relationship between business and Six Sigma. And we will also understand the history behind Lean and Six Sigma and the principles of quality, Lean and Six Sigma. And then companies use Lean Six Sigma as an operational excellence model. So what is it, we will understand. And then what is the process approach? And then we will also understand Lean philosophy and Kaizen. So these are the right. See here, those of you who are very participative in the sense, you need to ask questions, you need to be on video, and you need to answer questions in the chat box. And those of you who are Venkat, you want to say anything? So those of you who are actively participating, you will be provided with additional certification. The program is exclusively for Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, but if you effectively participate, if you interact sufficiently, I would like to get you 2 more additional certification. Of course, there are certain requirements. The prime requirement is you should be very active in the program. All of you now stand a chance to receive 2 more certification without any additional cost, right? These certificates, the e-certificate will be issued, whereas this green belt certificate, hard copy of the certificate will be issued, right? There is a white belt certification as well as yellow belt certification as part of the same training program. And make sure you capitalize on the opportunity created. And as far as the green belt examination is concerned, the final assessment will be an online examination, 90 minutes, and there will be 50 questions, and you need to score 50%, not 60%. As students, if you need to score 50% and above to gain the certification, however, for the white and it is 60%. Hope it is understood. Right. So what is the relationship between business and Six Sigma? So Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma improves the profitability. Let us split the word profitability. Profit plus ability. What is profit? The financial benefit. I sell a product, right? My cost is this much, and the difference between selling price and the cost of the product is what is called profit. Profit is, the hard benefit, but always, any project you do, there will be soft benefit also. What is soft benefit? There will be lot of learnings. There will be lot of learnings, and those learnings will get you profits in the future, right? So your profit improves, and your ability to generate future profit also improves, and that is the meaning of profitability. You can always, any project will have these kind of benefits. So now, how can I increase the profit? One thing is, you may produce more output from the same resources. You produce more output from the same resources. When I produce more output from the same resources, what does it mean? I am focusing on improving my efficiency. I work efficiently. Efficiency is what? I spend the resources, I provide, I consume resources only what is actually required. And that means I'll be super efficient and thereby my outputs will be more. However, my resources consumption will be less. Such projects are called Lean Six Sigma projects, otherwise called DMAC projects. Right? Another thing is we try to produce more output, but using the same resource. We are not going to reduce the consumption of the resources. We will consume the same resources, but we will try to optimize our output. That means we are going to prevent the failures, and that is called effectiveness. So certain projects focus on efficiency, certain projects focus on effectiveness. Such projects are called DMAC projects. Such projects are called DMAC projects. If you carefully listen, you will understand both these things will improve your bottom line. You know what is bottom line? Bottom line is nothing but maximizing the profit. Bottom line is nothing but maximizing the profit. Sometimes what happens, we think of developing new products. How do we develop new products? We expand the capacity. That means we now wanted to produce more output and we are okay with the new investment. The new investment may be on developing a new product or expand our capacity. And that means when we are developing new products or developing a new plant or developing a new process, our focus will be on both the effectiveness as well as efficiency. Because the output that is going to come out of your factory has to be effective, has to be efficient, so that product quality will be great and then the cost will be very competitive. And this approach is called DFSS, Design for Six Sigma. This approach is called Design for Six Sigma. And now our goal is top line growth. You know what is top line growth? The revenue. There will be a hike in the revenue. Why the revenue improves? Because now you have so many verticals, new products, and so the cash flow in the form of revenue will be amplified. So there are 3 types of projects always possible. And in my opinion, when you do the short-term projects, when you do 3 to 6 months, your focus should be either on effectiveness or on efficiency, right? If your focus is just on effectiveness, that's called a Six Sigma project. If your focus is on efficiency, that's called Lean Six Sigma project. If it is on both, then it is called a DFSS project. DFSS projects are generally long-term projects. It's a new product development, right? Designing a machine or designing a complete layout. Such projects are called DFSS. So in my opinion, you need to focus here either on LSS or Six Sigma, and later you can master the DFSS. All of you understand these things? A difference between effectiveness and efficiency?
Yes, sir.
Good. So imagine I go to a restaurant, I order a coffee. I go to a restaurant, I order a coffee, and the coffee is not tasting good. Coffee is not tasting good. Tell me, is it an efficiency problem or an effectiveness problem?
Effective.
It is an effectiveness problem. I expected a tasty coffee, but the coffee taste is bad. That means there is a defect. No, there is a failure. So that's an effectiveness problem. That's an opportunity for a Six Sigma project. I go to a restaurant, coffee is fantastic, but they made me to wait for 20 minutes to get a coffee. They made me to wait for 20 minutes to get a coffee. Now tell me, is it an effectiveness problem or an efficiency problem? Efficiency problem. They don't know how to effectively utilize the resources, so that they can deliver the coffee consuming less time. But they consume the more time. When you consume resources in excess, you cannot be efficient, right? So sometimes the problem could be related to effectiveness. Sometimes problem could be related to efficiency. If you want to attack the efficiency, your project will be a Lean Six Sigma project. If you want to attack the effectiveness, then your project will be a Six Sigma project. So this is the quality progress timeline. So long back, people thought that the skill of the craftsman is considered as the quality long back. And then later what happened? The concept of interchangeability came. You know what is concept of interchangeability? I produce products in different plants and then assemble them. When I actually assemble the parts which are produced from different plants and different machines, still I can assemble and get the expected quality. And that is called the concept of interchangeable parts. And that is what is termed as Industry 1.0. Then later what happened? Go gauges and no-go gauges were introduced. And that's the birth of quality control also. And this period is considered as Industry 2.0. And then later, Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Corporation, he came up with an assembly line model. You know what is assembly line model? Earlier, people move between machines and then to assemble the parts. But Ford has come out with a completely new idea. People did not move. Rather, you can see the assembly line completely moving. I will only do my job sitting in the same place or standing in the same place. Instead of me moving, now what is moving? The assembly line is moving. That's what nowadays all of you are seeing in the automotive industries. The final, the assembled car comes out as the final product, and this is called moving assembly line. This period is called what? Industry 2.0. And then somewhere around the 1950s, right? Yes, the Japan restructuring happened, right? You all know the World War II, and then Japan was hit badly with the nuclear bombs, and then the people from or the experts, the quality experts from America, they went to Japan and then helped them recover. At the same time, the Toyota, right, a company called Toyota, they benchmarked the practices of Ford or practices of Ford Motor Corporation and then customized it to suit the Japan market. Customized it to suit the Japan market, and they introduced a system called just in time. Just in time. In fact, they named it as a Toyota production system. They named it as Toyota production system, and as a result, the Japan economy has improved, and then Japan started producing high quality products. In fact, they have become a best competitor to the products that are coming from US. In fact, Japan learned many things from US, but later Japan has become a tough started giving tough competition to the US. And this concept called the Toyota production system and the JIT were later called as Lean, right? And somewhere around 1980s, Americans were struggling in terms of quality, but at the same time, the Japanese industry was doing very well. And that situation gave birth to an approach called Six Sigma. It is a company called Motorola, which actually brought out the approach called Six Sigma. And this period is called Industry 3.0. So Six Sigma is all about improving the effectiveness. Six Sigma is all about doing things right at the first time. When you do things right at the first time, absolutely there are no failures. Absolutely there are no defects. So the focus of Six Sigma is on effectiveness. And here, the Toyota production system and Lean, the focus is on efficiency, just in time, right? Everything, we do it only when it is required. Resource consumption, we consume only to the extent it is required. We never, consume resources more than, what is required to achieve the desired effectiveness. So this period is called Industry 3.0. The moment you ensure your organization has achieved the required effectiveness as well as the required efficiency, please understand your process is now ready for the Industry 4.0. Nothing but the digitization, automation and digitization. So Industry 4.0 happens if 3.0 happens properly, right? That means process improvement is a prerequisite for process automation and process digitization. So this is a brief history about how the quality progressed, and then it led to Lean Six Sigma, and then now people started talking about Internet of Things and so on. Is that clear to all of you? All of you understand?
Yeah.
Any questions to me? Why you are not asking?
So,
Anything you wanted to ask? No questions here, right? Good. You are able to follow all the explanations. Is it?
sir,
You are able to grasp properly?
hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
Sir, can you just explain the go orders or something? I didn't actually got that order.
Come again, Sharma. What is your point?
Uh,
Go gauge and no go gauge, right?
yes, sir. That's
This one. Very good. Very good. Very good. Good that you asked this question. See, after the concept of interchangeability, the companies started, understanding that when we produce products in different machines and then try to assemble them, it won't assemble properly. Why it won't assemble properly? Because the dimensions were not, matching. Am I right? You can't, connect a bolt and nut if the dimensions are different, isn't it? So if you expect your parts to, get assembled properly, the dimensional requirements have to be met. The dimensions have to be within the tolerance. And so they introduced, a concept of quality control. Any product when produced, there will be some quality check. There will be gauges called go gauge and no go gauge, right? These gauges will check whether the product produced, whether the component produced meets the dimensional requirement or not. For example, if my product has to have a certain diameter, certain outer diameter, then it has to go in a particular gauge. We call it a go gauge. Suppose when about the maximum size of the maximum dimension of a product, then it should not go inside the gauge. We call it a no-go gauge. If it goes inside, it means the size is acceptable in a go gauge. At the same time, in a no-go gauge, it should not go. So likewise, you can control the lower tolerance as well as the upper tolerance, and that is you can quickly check the dimension. It's a very simple thing. A tool with by using which you can quickly check the dimensional correctness of a component. Right? That is called go gauge and no go gauge. So inspection process becomes easier. Got it?
yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So in 1960, it is this person, A.G. Toyoda. He toured Ford Motor Corporation. He toured Ford Motor Corporation and then benchmarked their assembly line concept. And then he came back and he tested the assembly line concept of Ford and made it suitable for Japan market. Why he has to customize? Because the Ford was operating in US, the market was so big, so they were focusing on mass production. But Japan market was small, and then people had a different taste. They wanted more variations, more variants, and so it required a lot of flexibility to produce different products. So A.G. Toyoda, along with two more quality gurus called Taichi Ono and Shigeo Shingo, right? And they developed an approach, nothing but certain philosophies, certain principles, guidelines, and they named it as Toyota Production System. And according to Toyota Production System, they were actually living 4 principles. First principle number 1, philosophy is the foundation. They don't run the company just to make money. Rather, they run the company to create value to people. To create value to people. See, they understood that profit comes from the customer. Profit doesn't come from your products and services. Profit actually comes from the customer. So their philosophy is to ensure they create value to people, whether he is a customer or he is an employee or he is the management, whomsoever he is, right? Creating value is their philosophy, right? And number 2, their second principle is right process produce right result. Results are important, but where from results comes? Results comes. Your processes have to be right to produce the right result. That is their principle number 2. And principle number 3, add value to the organization by developing your people and partners. You develop your people, you equip your employees, equip your suppliers, equip your vendors. If you equip your vendors, suppliers, and your own employees, they will equip the organization. That is their third philosophy or third principle, right? Add value to the organization by developing your people and partners. And principle number 4, continuously solve problems at the root level. If you continuously solve problems at the root level, slowly your organization will become problem free. Slowly your organization will become problem free. That means every product you produce, will not have any defect, right? So these are the 4 principles. And in order to ensure the whole company, Toyota, practices all the 4 in their day-to-day activities, they created several tools and techniques, and the package is called Toyota Production System. It really worked very well, and Toyota, you become known for the quality levels. And seeing the success of Toyota, many companies studied the Toyota Production System and then adopted it. And in order to make it available and then practicable by any company, and then the quality gurus have studied the system and renamed it as Lean. So it actually the Toyota is the company which gave birth to the concept called Lean. So Lean is all about eliminating wasteful activities. So we will understand what is a waste and then how to eliminate it, right? So Toyota Production System is now called as Lean, right? And now successfully adopted by all. Then what happened now? Now Toyota has become very popular. That means the Japanese products have become very popular. At the same time, somewhere around 1980s, Motorola, we all know Motorola, a big mobile smartphone manufacturing company nowadays. Those days, they were manufacturing electronic products, pagers, and then some mobiles also, right? And one of their product is televisions. They were selling it in a brand name called Quasar, and they were experiencing some quality issues. You know what is that? They were selling this product, and then once the products are launched in the market, there were failures. When the product fails after launching in the market, that is called external failure. That is called external failure. Why do we call it external failure? Because customers are seeing a defective product. When you make your customers see a defective product, that is called an external failure. So external failures are more dangerous to the company because people will talk about it and then they will spread the word, and then finally nobody will prefer buying your product. And why external failure happened? They failed to detect it internally, right? And these things were going on, and as a result, there were warranty claims, and Motorola was suffering a lot. And they have decided to sell the brand. And the brand was sold to a Japanese firm called Matsushita Electric. It was sold to a firm, Japanese firm called Matsushita Electric. You know what they did? They proactively prevented the internal failure. As a result, when the product goes to the market, there were no external failure. This actually made a big difference with the same product. The same product, when in the hands of the American company Motorola, it was not doing well. But after takeover by Japanese, the same product was performing very well, and then market was growing like anything. And seeing the success of the Quasar, the CEO of the company Motorola, you are seeing him, Robert Bob Galvin. He realized one thing. Problem is not only with the quality of the product they were manufacturing, problem is also with their approach towards quality. Problem is also with approach towards the quality. And so he called all his executives, like how all of us are discussing today, and he called all his executives and then challenged them, saying that all of you are responsible for growing the company 10 times in the next 5 years. How many times? Growing the company tenfold in the next 5 years. And the responsibility was given to two gentlemen, Bill Smith and then Michael Harry. He is Bill Smith. He is an engineer by profession. And then he is Dr. Michael Harry, who is a statistician by profession. You know what they did? They developed a systematic approach. They developed a statistical approach to prevent all the failures internally. To prevent all the failures internally. The advantage is when you detect all the failures internally and then prevent them, external failures cannot happen easily. Your products can comfortably go through the warranty period and in fact can work well even beyond the warranty. So, and they developed this approach using a statistical approach, and they developed the metric based system. What is metric? So metric based system is how my process is performing. For everything there are certain metrics, right? Some we called the KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics. And so how an individual is working, how a machine is working, how my department is working, how my unit is working, for everything there is a metric. So sitting in the comfort of the office, they were able to understand the performance of the entire manufacturing facility, and then they were able to really achieve the desired quality. And for that, they used the statistical concept developed by this great mathematician, Frederick Gauss, German mathematician. He is the one who introduced a theory called theory of normal distribution. According to Carl Friedrich Gauss, everything in this world, most of the process in this world happens in a specific pattern, and that pattern will be in the shape of a bell, and he called it as normal distribution. If one understands the theory of normal distribution clearly, he can thoroughly understand 95% of the business process. He can actually he can actually solve 95% of the problems in any organization if he masters the theory of normal distribution. So the normal distribution will also be taught to you as part of this course. If you understand it correctly, then you will become a very good problem solver. So in 1987, this Bill Smith and Michael Harry, in order to solve all the resolve all the failures within Motorola before dispatching the product, they developed a statistical approach and the methodology called MAC, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Where M stands for measure, A stands for analyze, I stands for improve, and C stands for control. What gets measured gets improved. So they started with measure, and then analyze, and then improve, and then control. So this initiative slowly, resolved the failures one by one. This is a systematic approach. Systematic in the sense every problem within Motorola has been addressed at the root level. The advantage is once you fix a problem at the root level, same problem cannot come again. So with this initiative, Motorola saved about $16 billion. They did several improvement projects. All the failures were arrested one by one, and over a period of 5 to 10 years, the Motorola's business process have become problem-free, failure-free. As a result, they have made a saving of $16 billion in manufacturing as well as non-manufacturing areas. And for the level of quality and best practices, Motorola was also awarded Malcolm Baldrige and National Quality Award in the year 1988. And today, Bill Smith is known as father of Six Sigma. Bill Smith is known as father of Six Sigma. And it is this gentleman, Dr. Michael Harry, and along with Bill Smith and the team members, developed different belt level. Why different belt levels are required? Because for someone to work in a Six Sigma project, he should be trained on the methodology called MAC, M-A-I-C, MAC, measure, analyze, improve, and control. He should be trained on the concepts of normal distribution, some statistics. See, statistics is slightly different from your mathematics. Mathematics talks about equality. However, statistics talks about inequality. You can handle statistics very well only by mastering the normal distribution, right? And so people have to be trained on the statistical tools and techniques. People have to be trained on the methodology developed by Motorola so that they can actually work in the project. Depending on the ability to work in the project, they have been categorized into different belt levels, like white belt, yellow belt, green belt, black belt, and master black belt, and things like that. Right? And we are trying to convert each one of you into a green belt. That means you will be able to work on improvement projects. And see here, when introduced, the methodology had only 4 phases: measure, analyze, improve, and control. But later, when adopted by other companies, particularly a company called General Electric, they converted the methodology MAC into DMAC. That happened in the year 1995 because the CEO of General Electric, right? He thought that problem should be defined before measuring. So he added in front of MAC. So MAC has become DMAC. And after 1995, even today, Six Sigma methodology is practiced as DMAC only. There are 5 phases: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That is what we are trying to master, right? So company is Motorola. The turnover is about $4,000 million. The manpower is very huge. They are present in more than 30 locations. Okay. So in 1979, the problem with Motorola was quality was thinking going down. We have seen with the user case, and then as well as some of their pager units, they were failing, right? And there were stiff competition at the same time from the Japanese company. So in order to become world leaders in manufacturing of communication products such as pagers and mobile phones, Motorola come out with this Six Sigma approach, right? And another thing is same time, ABB power transfer plant, right? Their turnover is about 1,000 million, and then their manpower is about 500. And they also realized the need for improvement because they thought that their performance is below the average, right? And well below world-class performance. Their defect levels are over 60% higher than the competitors, right? And the competitors were able to make profit 10% higher than ABB. And this has created necessity for a company called ABB to embrace Six Sigma. And then similarly, GE Medical System, General Electric, I was saying. So they were producing scanners. The scanner speed was very low compared to the competitors' product. The scanner speed was 3 minutes. However, the competitors were producing faster scanners which can complete the task within a few seconds. So this has created the necessity for General Electric to embrace the Six Sigma approach. Bulb failure. The cost of the bulb that has been used in the scanners were very high. You see here, annually 20 million bulbs, they fail, and the replacement cost is somewhere around $60,000. So it created the necessity for General Electric to adopt the Six Sigma. And as a result, embracing Six Sigma led to a saving of $2.2 billion every year for Motorola and $1 billion exclusively in non-manufacturing. And this is a clear evidence that Six Sigma can be applied in any kind of industry, manufacturing as well as non-manufacturing or even service industry. Similarly, ABB achieved 68% reduction in defect level, 30% reduction in production cost, and $898 million savings each year. Similarly, General Electric, they were spending $500 million and they got back $2 billion within 1 year, right? And $8 to $12 billion saving in the next 5 years. So these are the reasons why every company want to embrace Six Sigma. So Six Sigma is nothing but an operational excellence model. What is operational excellence model? Achieving the required level of effectiveness and efficiency. So Six Sigma is an aggressive campaign to boost profitability in any organization. It increases the market share and improves the customer satisfaction, and it uses quality as the focus. Six Sigma aims at progressively, aggressively, and continually adding value by reducing variability. And as a result, the benefit is customer satisfaction, cost reduction, and legal compliance in any organization. Right. So, this is why this is why Six Sigma is preferred in many companies. So I think I will stop here because I heard a news that you have your lunch break. So I stop here and then